You wake up in Greenwich, Connecticut. 7 in the morning. Early light cuts clean across a perfectly manicured lawn. The air smells like fresh ground coffee from your Jura, and somewhere behind you, the Sub-Zero hums its low, steady hum. Your Tesla sits quiet in the garage next to your wife's Range Rover, everything exactly where it belongs, everything exactly as it should be. You walk out to grab the mail off the granite front steps, bills, catalogs, and one thick envelope in cream stock. No return address on the front. You flip it over. Internal Revenue Service. Your heart does one dull, heavy knock and stops. You tear it open, right there on the steps. Official notice of a full audit covering the last 3 years. Numbers start firing through your head instantly. The Wells Fargo mortgage on the 4,400 square foot house, $22,000 a month. Private school tuition for 2 kids, $60,000 a year each. The vehicle leases.
The personal guarantee you signed on the business credit line at Chase. Your FICO score, the one you've nursed above 800 like it was a living thing. This entire life you built on leverage suddenly feels like a cardboard stage set, and the wind is already picking up. That IRS envelope wasn't the beginning of the problem. It was the official confirmation of it. A mirror held up to something you already knew but refused to say out loud. Your life is not your design. It is a consumption standard you accepted on autopilot to keep pace, to fit in with your circle, to look the part. Normalcy is a pre-negotiated level of dependence that the system installs in you long before you ever think to ask questions. Social comparison converts that norm into a self-executing standard that nobody consciously chose. You didn't choose a 30-year mortgage. You just wanted to be in a good school district. You didn't choose the car loan.
You just wanted the safety and the status that comes with a German badge on the hood. You chose to belong, and the full package of financial obligations came bundled into that deal with no opt-out clause. The system didn't sell you a house and a car. It sold you a cage dressed up as the American dream, and you personally financed every last nail. You spent years working brutally hard to earn the privilege of being exposed. So that some random IRS examiner, some random convulsion on Wall Street, could bring your entire reality down. Normalcy turns out to be far more dangerous than conscious poverty. Poverty at least recognizes itself as a problem that needs solving. Normalcy believes it is an achievement worth defending. It cannot see its own chains. Comfort always arrives disguised as a well-earned reward. Proof that you're doing it right, proof that you're moving up. Trading the cramped apartment for a spacious loft in Soho. Swapping the packed Planet Fitness for an Equinox membership. Filling your cart at Whole Foods instead of the regular grocery store down the block. Every step up that ladder feels like a genuine win. Like a clean, unambiguous right to a better life. Paid for in full with your own sweat. But this is exactly where the system weaponizes a hard-coded defect in human psychology against you. Hedonic adaptation. This mechanism guarantees that any new level of comfort stops generating pleasure and becomes the mandatory baseline within 3 to 6 months, maximum. The rush of driving a new Audi fades into habit, and habit calcifies into standard. The first dinner at a 3-Michelin-star restaurant is an event, the 10th is just a Tuesday. Your brain rapidly recalibrates its baseline, converting what was once a luxury into an everyday requirement. The dopamine hit from the purchase was temporary. The monthly American Express balance is permanent. Comfort does not compound like capital. It evaporates, and it only leaves obligations behind. The higher your comfort floor, the higher your pain threshold for losing it. Every new luxury you integrate into your life does not make you freer. It makes you more exposed. Now you have something to lose. You no longer fear poverty. You fear regression to a previous version of yourself. A version of your life that felt perfectly acceptable just 12 months ago. That delta between where you are now and where you were becomes your new fear, your personal pressure point. Your capacity to make bold decisions, to walk away from a toxic partner, to quit a job you hate, atrophies in direct proportion to the growth of your monthly nut. Capital is not interested in your freedom. It is interested in your predictability. Look at the senior vice president at Goldman Sachs or the staff engineer at Google in Palo Alto. His W-2 income looks like a fortune, $500,000 a year. But his reality is $15,000 a month in rent because of the school district.
$30,000 a year for the younger kid's private preschool. 2 premium SUV leases, because safety and optics. His monthly burn rate, the floor of non-negotiable spending, sits at $35,000. He has no cushion that survives more than 3 months without that paycheck. He is physically incapable of walking away from the corporation he despises. Not because he fears uncertainty, but because his financial architecture does not permit gaps. His obligations to the bank, the landlord, and the private school are stronger than his will to change. He built himself a life he cannot exit without filing Chapter 7. He is not living. He is servicing his cost of living. The system does not reward you with comfort in exchange for your labor. It uses comfort to make you manageable. It raises your standards to raise your dependence.
It gives you precisely enough pleasure that you are terrified of losing it, but never quite enough that you feel genuinely free. Comfort is the anesthesia that allows the system to perform any procedure it wants on you while you enjoy the view from the window. The more comfortable the cage, the less you feel the urge to find the door. The modern American market presents you with the illusion of absolute agency, thousands of options, where to live, a loft in Brooklyn or a house in the suburbs of Dallas. How to work, a W-2 position at a Fortune 500 company, or launch your own LLC incorporated in Delaware. What to consume, a Whole Foods diet or a meal kit delivery subscription. Every click feels like an act of self-determination. You are a sovereign consumer. This is the most sophisticated and most effective con that capital has ever run. That abundance of options serves a single purpose: to mask the complete absence of any real choice. Every one of those paths, brands, and lifestyle categories exists inside the same operating system, and not one of them leads outside its walls. The system does not offer you a choice between dependence and freedom. It offers you a choice between different flavors of dependence, each one wrapped in the glossy packaging of personal preference. You do not choose whether to play the game, you only choose the color of your chip on a board whose rules you did not write. The market has engineered enough forks in the road that you never pause to ask where this road actually goes. It always goes toward deeper financial dependence. Choosing between an iPhone and the latest Samsung is not freedom, it is a design debate about your preferred digital leash. Choosing between a 30-year Bank of America mortgage and a luxury apartment rental is not a life strategy decision, it is a preference between 2 methods of debt servitude. Deciding between Netflix, Hulu, or HBO Max is not an expression of individuality. It is navigation within someone else's entertainment menu, engineered to keep your monthly subscription charge alive. Every one of these decisions generates the sensation of control, while the actual control remains with whoever owns the menu. Real freedom begins where the option to refuse the menu entirely exists. That button is not in the interface. Look at the guy who, quote, unquote, freely chose the flexibility of freelancing after escaping his Wall Street corporate grind. He opened his LLC, works out of a co-working space in Austin, and invoices clients through Stripe. The first 6 months feel like oxygen. But he quickly discovers that maintaining the lifestyle he normalized, the apartment with a view, the car, the dinners out, requires not 40 hours a week but 70. He's paying his own health insurance premiums on the ACA marketplace. He's covering self-employment taxes out of pocket. His expenses scaled up in lockstep with his sense of freedom. He ends up more tethered to his laptop than he ever was to his desk at JP Morgan. He just replaced one boss with 10 clients, each one expecting him available around the clock. He did not become freer, he became his own most demanding manager. The problem did not disappear, it just rebranded. Coercion was renamed a lifestyle. Dependence was relabeled a personal choice. And in this new form it became far harder to identify, because now you are the one convincing yourself that all of it was your own decision. The moment a person realizes they are trapped, they immediately start looking not for a way out but for a new tool. They are convinced the issue is with their toolkit, not with their destination. They just need the right tactical move, the right stock that the smart money is whispering about, the right crypto play before it goes parabolic, the right business model to copy, automate, and scale. They pay for financial newsletters, consume guru content on YouTube, chase what feels like insider information, believing that somewhere out there is a secret key that unlocks the door to real freedom. But this is not a search for a solution.
It is a refined form of running away from one. This endless hunt for tactics without strategy is a perfectly calibrated avoidance mechanism. It lets you feel active, productive, and perpetually in motion, without ever forcing yourself to confront the one question that is most destructive to the ego. Why am I doing any of this? What kind of life am I actually building? What does enough mean to me? These questions require silence and honesty, and the market offers deafening noise in their place. Obsessing over charts on TradingView, burning through analyst reports, mainlining venture capital podcasts. All of it manufactures a powerful illusion of control and purposeful activity.
But without a clear understanding of the terminal goal, every financial instrument is just a new toy. You can rotate assets from one bucket to another indefinitely, all while preserving the exact same fear and greed-driven, reactive behavior that got you stuck in the first place. Without a philosophy, every tool is just a more sophisticated way to lose. Picture an investor from the Chicago suburbs. Over the last 5 years, he has changed everything except the underlying pattern. He started with crypto in 2017 because he saw tweets about people flipping Ethereum into life-changing money. Then, after the collapse, he was watching Jim Cramer on CNBC shouting about the tech revolution, and he rotated his capital into Cathie Wood's ARK Innovation ETF right at the peak. When the market turned, he panicked and moved into a real estate fund, deploying into Austin and Miami because he'd heard that hard assets were the only hedge against the inflation the Fed was printing into existence. And now he's hunting for an angel investing opportunity in early-stage startups because his Wharton classmates are closing venture rounds and talking about 10x returns. Every single time, he entered a new asset class for exactly the same reason. Other people were making money there, and the FOMO was unbearable. His decisions were never driven by strategic conviction. They were driven by the primal fear of being left behind. Tactics without philosophy do not solve the problem. They just relocate the same absence of discipline into a new financial instrument. The conventional wisdom says the path to financial independence runs exclusively through income growth. Without another promotion, without a fatter year-end bonus, without a new funding round for the startup, forward progress is impossible. You fixate on the top line, on the number in your W-2, because the system taught you that is where the leverage lives. You grind for the partner track, for the VP title, for a better equity stake, believing that the solution to your problem is simply more revenue. This is a foundational error, and the system cultivates it deliberately. It keeps your attention locked on the variable you control least. Your income is set by the market, by your management's decisions, by the state of the macro environment, by the whims of investors. That is someone else's game. By keeping your focus on income, the system pulls it away from the only variable that sits entirely within your control, the spread between what you earn and what you spend. That spread is your actual leverage. Fixating on income creates a paralyzing sense of helplessness and perpetual rat race. Fixating on the spread gives you back the controls. The gap between your income and your expenses is the only number that matters. It is the only metric that determines the speed at which you accumulate independence from the system. Not the absolute size of your earnings, but the percentage of those earnings you are capable of keeping. That is your personal savings rate, your sovereign surplus. Everything else is noise, engineered specifically to distract you from this simple and deeply inconvenient fact. The system does not want you thinking about the spread, it wants you thinking about how to earn more so you can spend more, thereby keeping the spread at the minimal level that is safe for the system. It sells you the idea that your lifestyle must scale in direct proportion to your income. That mechanism is what ensures you never break free. Capital does not fear your high income, it fears your high degree of control over your outflows. Compare two realities. Here is a senior engineer at a tech company in Raleigh, North Carolina. Annual income, $180,000. He lives in a good house, not a showpiece. His kids go to an excellent public school. He drives a reliable Honda. His annual expenses run $100,000. Every year, he transfers $80,000 into his Charles Schwab brokerage account. Now look at a partner at a Manhattan law firm. His W-2 income is $500,000 a year. He lives in a Brooklyn townhouse on a 30-year Chase mortgage. His kids are enrolled in elite private schools at $60,000 per child per year.
His wife drives a new Cadillac Escalade on a lease. On weekends, they drive out to their country club on Long Island. His monthly burn rate, the floor of non-negotiable fixed obligations, runs $45,000 without breaking a sweat. His annual spend is $540,000. Every year he runs a $40,000 deficit, bridging the gap with his J.P. Morgan private bank credit line and his American Express Centurion card balance. On paper, he looks 3 times wealthier than the engineer in Raleigh.
In reality, he is a hostage to his own income, and his entire financial structure collapses the moment his bonus comes in light. The engineer is building capital. The lawyer is financing a first-class lifestyle on credit he extended to himself against the collateral of his own future. The problem never went away. It just changed its talking points. Instead of saying, "I don't earn enough," the person starts saying, "My necessary expenses are simply very high." He rationalizes the $3 million mortgage as required by the need to live in the right zip code, and the private school tuition as an investment in his children's future. He dodges the same devastating question again and again. What in this entire picture is actually necessary? Fear of financial turbulence gets treated like pure poison. It is a paralyzing emotion to be suppressed, numbed, or distracted from immediately. The cold drop in the stomach when the S&P 500 falls 3% in a single session. The quiet panic when a medical bill arrives that insurance barely touched. These are signals that the modern professional has been conditioned to experience, not as data points for analysis, but as personal affronts, attacks on his equilibrium. And the system has a painkiller ready instantly. Reflexive consumption as an escape from fear has been installed at the firmware level. Anxious about the balance creeping up on your American Express? Order something on Amazon. Prime 2-day delivery will take the edge off. Worried that your 401k isn't growing fast enough? Plan a trip to Hawaii. Browsing hotels on Expedia creates the sensation of controlling your future. This mechanism is diabolically elegant in its simplicity. It kills the short-term discomfort while compounding the long-term source of that discomfort. You are treating the symptom by aggravating the disease. You are silencing the only honest signal that is pointing directly at the real structural vulnerability. Fear is not noise. Fear is the most precise map of your exposure. Your own brain is capable of drawing. It illuminates every thin wall, every weak load-bearing beam in your financial structure. It is your internal auditor, running 24 hours a day, completely free of charge. A person who systematically suppresses that fear through distraction is voluntarily destroying the most valuable intelligence he has access to. He goes blind. He burns time he cannot get back, missing the window when his actions could still move the needle. The market always offers you a window to correct a mistake, but that window is narrow, and it closes. Fear is the timer counting down to when it shuts. Here is a manager in San Francisco. He feels a sharp spike of anxiety because after paying rent on his loft and making the payment on his Tesla, his Wells Fargo checking account has less than $1,000 in it. That feeling is clean, rational fear. So what does he do? He opens DoorDash and drops $120 on dinner from a trendy California restaurant because he deserves to treat himself after a brutal week. The anxiety actually recedes for one evening, replaced by good food and a glass of wine. But the exposure does not simply remain, it deepens. The problem is not the fear, the problem is that his only honest navigator was deliberately silenced by the exact same instruments that created the vulnerability in the first place. Recognizing this exposure is your pivot point. To stop treating the symptoms, you must operationalize the map your fear has drawn. This is where you execute the sovereign protocol, a sequence designed to aggressively widen your spread and weaponize your capital. The blueprint doesn't ask you to look poor, it demands that you become unseen by the system's tracking radars. Step 1 is the immediate calculation of your true nut, the absolute, stripped-back cost of your pure survival.
You sit down with your Schwab or Vanguard statements and locate the structural leaks. The least luxury SUVs, the high-end memberships, the automated subscriptions that manufacture convenience. These are the structural anchors pinning you to your corporate desk. You do not optimize them. You eliminate them. If your current residence requires a joint income miracle every month just to stay solvent, Your architecture is broken. You downsize or relocate to widen your spread to a non-negotiable minimum of 30%. Your high income is not an invitation to upgrade your lifestyle. It is ammunition. You do not give your surplus money a choice. You automate its deployment before your ego can intercept it. Every dollar of that sovereign surplus must be instantly rerouted into boring, liquid, unglamorous index funds or short-term, high-yield vehicles. This isn't investing for the dopamine hit of a 10x return on an unproven crypto asset. This is a systematic siege.
You are buying structural density. The second phase of the protocol is the aggressive eradication of asymmetric liabilities. High-interest debt is an active enemy combatant occupying your fortress. A premium credit card carrying a rolling balance or a massive variable rate credit line is an extraction mechanism designed to harvest your future mobility. You do not service this debt on the bank's schedule. You attack it with your entire accumulated spread until the liability is dead. Simultaneously, you construct a liquid insulation wall, a cash reserve representing 12 months of your true survival nut, held far away from your primary checking account. This cash is not meant to generate yield. Its sole return on investment is the absolute neutralization of short-term economic blackmail. It means that when Wall Street panics, or when your executive leadership demands an unethical compromise, your financial architecture does not require immediate compliance. This insulation changes the tone of your voice in the boardroom. It shifts your baseline from panic-driven survival to clinical observation. You stop asking how to survive the current corporate storm, and you begin calculating how to leverage the wreckage. True wealth, then, forces a complete rewriting of the conventional scorecard. It is not the size of the portfolio your Morgan Stanley advisor displays, or the net worth figure he calculates to keep you complacent. Measuring wealth through status indicators is the precise mechanism that ensures you remain manageable. The only real, operational definition of wealth is the number of situations, projects, and offers you can afford to say no to without catastrophic consequences. It is your sovereign capacity to decline. Look at the person with a $3 million net worth, most of which is a house in the Boston suburbs carrying a $2 million mortgage. He cannot quit his job.
Now picture someone else sitting on $400,000 in liquid assets with zero liabilities. He can disappear for 2 years. Wealth is not a number. It is a radius of refusal. And that radius is built exclusively through the repeated discipline of your outflows. The system will continue to offer you more polished bars for your cage, wrapped in the language of rewards and elite lifestyle choices. It will try to use your fear of regression to keep your spread at zero. But once you understand the game, the choice is entirely binary. You either continue to finance your own exposure for the applause of spectators, or you execute the discipline required to secure your gates. Build the spread, protect the insulation wall, expand your radius of refusal,